The best advice I have ever received is be yourself in business because it gets personal. I'm Jack Tompkins, partner and founder of Pineapple Consulting Firm, where we help small businesses become data driven. And really looking forward to the conversation today with Phil. We've talked a whole lot about different sales dashboards and all sorts of analysis there. So we have a whole lot of fun, and that's what I love talking about and doing for my business and helping other small businesses. So let's get into it.
Awesome. So, Jack, all business is personal. Where did you learn that? Who told you that? When did that happen?
That was a business partner of mine, who is now a business partner of mine, that right when I was kind of starting out and really very new to the entrepreneurial world, I was worried about, in the corporate world, sometimes you would act differently than you wanted to. And, everybody kind of knows that. But in small business world, it's you. Your business is you. So be yourself, because in small business, it is personal quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I learned that pretty early on in my business that it's my business, right? And so people like me, they'll do business with me, and if they don't, well, they probably won't, but they wouldn't anyway. I mean, I think that's the thing that folks miss, right? I mean, it's great advice, and we say, well, yeah, so what? But the so what is because they often won't do business with us first. Is that kind of what you found as well, Jack?
That's exactly right. Yep, they got to like me before they like what I do.
There you go. There you go. Right on, man. So with that, right? If that's true, and I believe that it certainly is. So how do we make sure that that originality flows through? I mean, you're a data guy. I'm not a data guy. So how do we get that right? How do we make sure that that shines through beyond everything else that we do, man? What do you got? Any tips on that before we jump into data?
Yeah, I would just say the meeting structure is kind of what I have pinpointed as how I can be me and how I can kind of let my personality come through. And mind you, I don't have a super strong personality. I'm pretty agreeable in most things, honestly. Um, but the meeting structure is kind of where that hangs. And sometimes it's even if it's just over Zoom, let's start off with a joke. Let's ask, where you're from, how you been, what's your family like, and all that stuff, and get to know people a little bit, and then dive into the what most people think, the boring stuff being data. Obviously, that's one of my favorite parts of the conversation, but it's as simple as just getting to know people and stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's so simple and yet so often not done. We hide. We're not sure what happens, right? But as viewer Shelly O'Donovan says, right, small business is different. It's an inside game. And often that's the game inside our head, right? The game that we tell ourselves, oh, I'm not like Jack, so therefore I'm wrong. Or I'm not like Shelly, and therefore I'm wrong. So how long did that take you in business to kind of unwrap that? Because that's something, some of us, it takes a long time, and some of us, we just click in.
Yeah, conservatively, it took me easily 6 months of like, wait a second. My favorite business story was actually I was supposed to meet somebody for coffee, and it was the height of COVID, so we were trying to meet at a Starbucks. Turns out they didn't have any outdoor seating, so he goes, well, there's a bar around the corner. I was like, sure, let's go have a beer. It was like 4 p.m. anyways. And we had a couple beers, and he became a client from it. And not saying that he wouldn't have if we had met at Starbucks, but that instant thing of like, yeah, like it's happy hour. Like, let's go relax a little and have some fun and talk shop at the same time. So that happened probably 6 months in for me. And from there, I've just been like, okay, that is an actual thing that happens in small business, which I was not expecting.
Cool. Cool. So are you in Wisconsin, Jack? Are you ever been in Wisconsin?
I have never. Well, actually, that's not true. I have been to Wisconsin. I have some family out there, but I'm located in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I ask that because if my friends from Wisconsin are listening, like 4 o'clock, dude, I've lunch beers over lunch. Like that's
Yeah,
that's
right.
pretty typical, right? But to your point, right? I do think it matters, like where you are, who you are, what you do, and I might say, as a data person, I'm actually kind of surprised that you're open at going for a beer. So that's kind of cool, right? That's a pleasant surprise. Not like, oh my gosh, I'm falling on the floor shocked, but still like, oh, cool, right? So you let me in a little bit, and I would bet that does break down a barrier, right? I would bet that is something that we can find in common even if like you're not chugging them down and doing shotgun in the beer, right? Just a little bit of an open, right?
Oh, that's exactly right. And to your point, most people think data and they think, all right, guy with glasses, they got that part right. But talking about some boring stuff and that's I'm a relationship person first and a data person second. And I like to make that clear from the start.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think that's why you and I click. That's certainly why you're here, right? Because people first, right? People first. And as we move into data here, Jack, you got to tell us though, man, why is it Pineapple Consulting? Like, what's the deal with the pineapple, man?
So kind of just like we were talking, and I get this question every single time. I even have a video on it on my website, I think. But pineapple to me, so I'm originally from Connecticut. I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina, so I wanted to embrace the Southern hospitality. And a lot of times in Southern typical culture, traditional culture, when a neighbor moves in next door, you give them a pineapple and welcome them to the neighborhood. It's like a sign of
Oh,
hospitality. So I really like that. Pineapple to me has always represented vacation, though. And I know small businesses don't get to take an actual vacation. And I know you understand that, Phil, being in Florida.
yeah.
Um, so if I can save them enough time or make them enough money or whatever so they can actually afford to take a true vacation, I would absolutely love it. So all that kind of got bottled up into the pineapple.
That's awesome. That's
Thank
really
you.
good. So I didn't know about the Southern hospitality. My neighbors came by and they left a bag of flaming poop on my door. Is that something different? I don't know. Maybe that's just for me, Jack. I don't know.
Right. I don't know.
Beats
Hopefully you're
me,
just a
man.
one-off. Yeah.
Yeah, could be, right? So cool, man. So data, right? How did you get started interested in data? Like, did you know as a kid, like, did you take an accounting class in like third grade, or is the Count your favorite Sesame Street character? I mean, what's going on, Jack?
Oh, those are good. I'm gonna start using those from now on.
There you go.
Um, so I really liked math as a kid. You're not wrong. I was not taking accounting, but as soon as I could, I was like managing my family's money to an extent, not everything. But I just always liked it. And I, my high school math class, the teacher was out for a while. And at one point, we had the substitute teacher who, just a high school substitute teacher, like she didn't want to be there, and she wasn't a math person either. So we had homework and stuff, and I just got up and started kind of like teaching the class because the class was like, Jack, what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. And so I really like that. And so it kind of started there of like, I get this stuff. I really like this stuff. I'm now seeing that most other people don't like this stuff at all. So it kind of grew from there into what is now this kind of data driven environment that I live in and help kind of explain for non data people.
Interesting. So data, but plus people you got in the front of the room. I mean, most true data people are not going to be as open to that, standing up and sharing that. So I think, from early on, you were a dichotomy in a good way, right? Like you like the data and you like the people. You're willing to share it. You're willing to get in front. I mean, I have not had many people who would consider themselves data files say, hey, I want to come on your podcast. So that's pretty darn cool, man. So with that, though, it's not enough to just collect the data, right? It's not enough to just have it. We have to do something meaningful with it. But like, what types of data, Jack? Before we talk about meaningfulness, like what types of data does a small business need to collect?
So it's a good question because it's one of those things like data's for the Fortune 500. Like my small business doesn't really need that, right? But the way I like to describe it is a big corporation will deal with things like financials, marketing data, operational data, all that sorts of stuff. Small businesses deal with the exact same data. It's just a lot easier to deal with and a lot more fun to look at. So instead of like an accounting team in some Fortune 500 company, you have QuickBooks. Instead of a whole marketing department that's focused on digital and content and blah, 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 you have your CRM and a Facebook ad. So it's all the same stuff. It's just a bit more digestible. And in my opinion, a lot more fun to work with because it's stuff that people view and use every day. Whether they realize that it's data or not is another story. So to answer your question with bullet points, because being a data person, I like summaries and stuff like that. Financial, marketing, and operational data are the big three.
There we go. Financial, data, and operational. So I can get my arms on 3 points, right? Even not being a data guy. So let's start with the financial data, right? Like what types of data? Are you talking cash flow here? Are we talking profitability? Are we talking taxes? Or what types of financial data is really important for small business?
My answer is kind of all of it's important. However, I don't deal with taxes very much because that's a whole nother realm that even I don't like to go into. But I like to start simple. So revenue and profit. It's stuff that you probably think about, your accountant or your business coach or whoever, they're going to ask about it. It's not rocket science. You don't have to deal with your ad spend over the past 3 months as a fraction of revenue. Focus on revenue and profit, start there. And then you can kind of see the snowball starting to take place of, okay, my revenue was up this month. Great. Where did it come from? Oh, I have this new product offering that's selling really well. Awesome. Is that profitable? Great. And then you kind of go from there. And what you end up doing is basically working down your income statement without even realizing that you're going through the income statement. So it's a much more natural process is what I like to do.
Okay. So that's easy. I can wrap my head around those two, right? Revenue. How much money did I take in? Duh. Okay, I got $100, $200. Okay, I can understand that. And profit, right? That's how much I took in versus how much went out the door. Okay, got that. Okay, makes a lot of sense. So let's move to marketing data because that's more fun for me. I'm a I like to market and I like sales. And I would argue in for small business, many times sales and marketing are the same thing. Not that functionally they're the same, but it's the outcome. Or it's what should we do to get our outcome, right? To get our revenue and profit. So what kind of marketing? Because I'll tell you, I get overwhelmed. Like I go into my Google Analytics and I just want to cry. It's too much data. There's way too much there. Like I look at a guy like Andy Crestodina, who is a totally brilliant marketer, and I look at how he breaks down that, and I just want to cry. I'm like, oh, Andy, that's too much, man. So please, Jack, tell me that it's not as bad as that.
It is not as bad as that. I do love Google Analytics. It's a phenomenal tool, but even when I open that up, it's overwhelming and it's not presented, I don't know, very user-friendly, I guess I would say. But there's a lot of good stuff in there, right? Because you probably just want like, how many sessions did I have last month? And that's an easy thing that you can kind of pull out and put into a marketing dashboard that shows you just the KPIs or the key performance indicators that you want to see. But speaking a bit more broadly outside of Google Analytics, some of the other things, your CRM is another one that's, holy crap, they have so many default fields. Like I use HubSpot. I have a lot of clients that use HubSpot. And it's like first client contact date versus create date versus which email campaign. I'm like, I just want to know who is in my contact list, right? So the strategy that I normally work with marketing data is think about the things that you actually care about, which is probably something like conversions, something like leads, maybe conversion rate, something along those lines, where the conversions come from. So in data terms, that would be conversion source. So think about those 5 or 6 things and then find where they are. So if they're in your CRM, great. You can just pull that little piece out. Don't care about the rest. If it's how many sessions were on your website, great. Go grab that from Google Analytics and take it out. Whatever matters most to your business, whatever is easiest to think about, start there and leave all of the annoying and the overwhelming stuff just where it sits.
Yeah, good. So I can focus on just what's important. I like that 5 or 6 things. And like what really matters to my business. It might not be what matters to your business or somebody else's business, but certainly matters to some. And I like that you mentioned the CRM because so many times small business conflates CRM with their newsletter. And they're not the same, right? Like, I don't care. I mean, truly, right? I always say, like, I don't care how many LinkedIn connections I have. I don't care how many Twitter followers I have. I want people that I can put in my CRM. And when I say that, like you probably get it, but most don't. And what I mean by that is, are these people that possibly could do business with me? If they are, right, then they should go on my CRM. And I shouldn't stress, oh, did they sign up for my newsletter? Did they connect to me on social media? Not that you shouldn't find them there. Right, but you shouldn't do that. So am I tracking here? Am I right on or am I crazy?
You can be both. Don't worry. No, you are right on though. It's exactly the point of what matters. Is it the email address? Great. Is it that you contacted them personally? Great. Is it that they follow you? Maybe that's your biggest thing because you do Instagram ads only. Um, Whatever that biggest thing is, stick with that. Start with that at least, and then the rest kind of naturally flows from that. So I think you're right.
Okay, good. Good. So I feel a little better. I'll be able to sleep a little bit better at night knowing that I'm actually doing some of this data. So that makes me happy. And then the third part you said is operational, right? Or operational type of data. So what's that, Jack? If we it's not marketing and it's not revenue, what tell me about operational data.
So operational data is for a service-based business. Think like time tracking. Think your hourly rate,
Oh,
where
okay.
you spend your time, things like that. And I work with a lot of service-based businesses, so they obviously don't really have inventory; they have time. So where they're spending their time is their operations. So that's a big one. If you're on the product side, it would be things like actual inventory, actual different SKUs that you work with. How did those sell out, and things like that. One step kind of removed for either product or service is the sales cycle. And I like to talk about that with clients too, because it has tentacles into all sorts of other things, financial forecasting, budgeting, sales, all this other stuff. Because if your sales cycle is 3 days, great. You don't have to sell for December when you're just starting November. You can wait till Christmas Day to sell for the new year, kind of thing. If it's 6 months, that's fine too. But knowing that sets an expectation that kind of drives your whole operations. It allows you to kind of create your marketing plan around that too, and kind of forecast the financials as well.
Good. So let's talk about that because sales cycle is fun for me. I like to sell. I like to get that. So I think for me anyway, I think of that in two ways, right? Like how fast do things close, but then how fast do they pay, right? I want velocity in my cash. I want people that pay net zero, not people that pay me net 90. And I think that's a big difference there. So can you talk to me about that, Jack? Because I think that can be confusing for a small business.
Yeah. So one part is definitely the cash flow. Like, when does the cash come in? Because that's obviously a huge part of it. So measuring that is something that is very much worth knowing. If people do pay net zero, awesome. Keep those clients, give them a discount, like whatever. If people are paying net 90, then it might not be a bad thing, right? It could just be their business. It could be the way that you structure the agreement, but it sets the expectation to where if somebody is looking like in their head paying net 90 and you're expecting net zero, you're going to be so disappointed and you're going to be mad at the client. The client's not going to know why. And it's really just about setting that expectation. Um, so that's on the cash side. And again, super important to track. And maybe some of your products or services have longer sales cycles and longer payback periods and things like that. But it helps, it helps me at least take a deep breath once I know, like, okay, this person will take 35 days, 40 days, whatever. It's okay. I'm not going to be checking my QuickBooks every 5 minutes for it. So it's just the expectation setting for the cycle and the cash flow.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? If we set expectations unmet are drive small businesses crazy. I know they certainly drive me crazy. I'm challenged by that sometimes. I'm like, come on, like what is going on? And then I really take a deep breath and think, did I do a good job of setting expectations? Did I really say that it's payable on receipt? And for me, service-based business guy, I want that, right? I ask for that. I expect that. But if your expectation is net 90 and we don't talk about it, but my invoice says net zero, you're like, well, I'm just going to do what I think, right? So how do we help me here, Jack? How do I have that conversation up front so that I can eliminate the 0 to 90 tension that inevitably is going to happen because somebody is not going to be happy.
Right. Yeah. Which is a terrible spot to be in for small business too. If both parties aren't happy, then something went wrong and you might not get a second shot at it on either side. So having that conversation up front, for one, I'll start with data. If you know that most people in this whatever client, if they're a manufacturer and they have the specific cycle and they are more of a net 90 type business, you can have the data to prove it and show, okay, most clients in your business, Mr. and Mrs. Client, they pay within 90. That's fine. Ideally, if the money comes in sooner, we can get more work done and we can kind of speed up the whole end project that'll take 4 6 months, whatever it is. So it's kind of using the data allows you to have at least confidence of when it's going to happen. The non-data side, the relationship side, is just, hey, the quicker this comes in, the quicker we can move on. And that's, if it takes 90 days, it takes 90 days. That's okay. But know that we won't be able to start the next phase until that check clears. And, maybe that could even be a little bit harsh, but something along those lines where it impacts their timeline for their end product.
Okay, cool. I can handle that conversation, right? That doesn't feel too terribly difficult. But the earlier we have it, the better, right? So we can get lined up faster. So tell me some of the data stories here that we're finding here, Jack, in operational data, right? If we're time tracking, and maybe because I firmly believe like our calendars are life. That if you're in service business, like every 30 minutes, I look at like, okay, what did I really spend my time on? Is it just fooling around, right? I mean, it's okay to take a nap. That's one of the best parts about being a self-employed person. But if I'm taking 4-hour naps a day, well, I probably got a different problem, right? I probably need to go see my doctor. So talk to me about this, Jack. What give me the operational story that we might tell ourselves or that our data might tell us.
Yeah. So keeping good time tracking sounds tedious and sounds annoying, but the benefits far outweigh it. And you just get into a rhythm. So it's as soon as I complete a task, like as soon as we stop this podcast or this recording, I'll go and I'll log it right away. Some people wait to the end of the day, and it doesn't matter as long as you have a process. So I'll make that plug for time tracking. Some of the impacts of it, though. So what is the benefit of time tracking? Go back to the products or the services. If you are a service-based business and if you are selling, hey, we've got this whole consulting package, we've got strategy sessions and blah, blah, blah. It's a 3-month package. You can know with a fair degree of confidence how much time that's going to take you to produce, execute on, and talk to the client about. And so you can look and say, all right, it's 10 hours a month, so we're going to call it over 3 months. That's 30 total hours. And I know that it's going to be around 30 hours. Maybe it's 25, maybe it's 35, but I'm in the ballpark. Well, from that, you now have a price set too. Because if you have an hourly rate, which is all obviously attached to the time tracking as well, you can say, great, 25 to 35 hours, let's say the hourly rate's $100, then this whole package is going to be $2,500 to $3,500. Boom. I have now set fair expectations for myself. I've set fair expectations for the client, and I'm not stressed about what price to sell this for because I know it's going to be worth my time if it's in this range.
Wow, I like that. I never thought about that benefit. So, do you have a favorite tool for time tracking? Where do we do this? Do you just track in Excel, or what do you think, Jack?
So, I use a program called Clockify. It's Clock IFY, all one word, and I found it to be pretty robust. And I have the free version too, and it's exactly what I need. What I like about it is you can have a specific project for a specific client. And you can have, they call them tasks. So those are basically like, what are you doing for this client? For me, it's like an Excel dashboard or a web-based dashboard kind of thing. And then you have tags. So you can say, all right, I'm working for Phil. We're doing an Excel dashboard, and it is the project of Phil's scorecard. And today I had a meeting about it, and I did some data gathering for it. So I've got all this information, and I can then extrapolate that and say, for this tag, for this project, this is how long it normally takes, and it kind of flows out. So I know there's other good ones. People use Tick. People use QuickBooks has an okay one. It's not great, but there are a lot of good ones out there. It depends on, and if you Google it, there's going to be like 100 answers. So check a few out and see which one fits your business model best, I would say.
Good. So I'm glad to hear that. A free version of a tool is always nice, right? To be able to do that. So I'll add that to my toolbox and take a look at that. I'm glad to hear that. So Jack, you let's go a little bit, I guess, broader, maybe deeper. I don't know. On that dashboard, right? So I know that's where your sweet spot is, right? You're a dashboard guy. You're helping me put together the right data so that I can tell the right story of my business. So what goes into a dashboard? Like what does that look like, Jack?
Sure. So think of like an infographic almost. And if you're scrolling, doing the infinite scroll on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, and there's a graphic of like, boom, this percent of people got COVID, obviously very topical because this data visualization actually took leaps and bounds forward during COVID because people were very interested in the numbers and nobody wanted to look at the actual numbers. They wanted to see the picture of the numbers. So that's essentially, it's very close to what a dashboard does. For business things, think of it as the top is your KPIs, your key performance indicators. Then you've got sort of a trend. It's just a bar graph that shows you how your revenue is trending over time. You can then have a pie chart or like a horizontal graph of your revenue breakdown. So source 1, 2, 3. And then you can have other things loop in like your different conversion source and things like that. The goal of the dashboard is really to promote a good conversation, and it allows things to look less like data and more just like a picture of your business performance. So it kind of allows you to be data driven without even seeing the actual data itself.
Wow. That's great. I like that. I could do with one of those, Jack. We'll have to talk about that because that sounds really smart, man. So really cool. So lots of stuff around data. So if we want to get started on our data journey so that we can be a smart small business and we can actually start doing this, tell me, give me 1 or 2 steps for starting tracking, and then 1 or 2 steps that we can start visualizing.
Sure. So step 1 for tracking is pick something that you think about a lot, you pay attention to, you know that you should know, but don't have a great grasp on now. And it could be as easily as how many conversions did I get? You probably have a rough idea, right? Maybe it's 10 for this month or something, but start there because it's something that you're going to be kind of invested in and not just doing data for data's sake. So pick something that matters, pick something that you're invested in, even if it's as basic as how many conversions did I get? What was my revenue last month? Where did my time get spent last month? And then for visualizing it, it's again, take that one thing, take the number of conversions. I like to start in Excel. A lot of people don't like Excel, but they're familiar with it. So if you like Excel, start there. If you don't like Excel, which is the majority of people, whatever program you use, and if it's conversions, you could look through like Google Analytics. You could check it out in your CRM. If it's revenue, you could just look at QuickBooks. If it's time tracking, use Clockify or whatever. They're going to have some sort of default summary, and they're going to try and put it into visuals for you. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be exactly what you want, but you can kind of dip your toe into that field that is data visualization. And you can say that one basic metric, conversions, great. There are 10. They came from these different sources. And the default summary on the tool will show that to you. You'll quickly realize that you want more, or you want different things, or you want it to be much more specific to your business. And that's when you kind of start getting creative. And that's when you bring in a data expert or invest the time to say, I want these specific things. How do I do them? Where are they coming from? And then that's probably where you jump into something like Excel or Google Data Studio.
Awesome. Yeah, that's called Hire Jack. That's what I'm getting from that, because I'm not going to play with the data. So that's great, Jack. So if people want to connect with you, I know you told them they can certainly connect with you on LinkedIn, but tell me about, give me your website URL, and you have something that you give people when they come to visit you that they can get more in touch with you and understand more?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my website's got a lot of examples of dashboards too. So if you're curious, there's plenty there. I have an interactive one too. But it is pineapplecf.com, which abbreviated for pineappleconsultingfirm.com. There are ways to connect with me at the bottom of every single page. Some are dashboard specific. Some are, hey, let's just chat. I love talking shop, so feel free to reach out. There's a whole lot more good stuff on the website too, including pineapple facts.
Awesome. Pineapple Facts. Well, I'm headed there now, so that's really good. If you want to connect with Jack Tompkins, check him out on LinkedIn. The URL is LinkedIn/in/Jack-Tompkins, or go to pineapplecf.com. If you need to get started visualizing your data, listen to Jack, right? Pick one thing you should know but you don't know, start tracking that, and then put it in some default visual summary so you can see what you need to know. Those are great tips, Jack. I really appreciate your time and sharing your data story with me, because frankly, it's stuff I know I don't do well. So I learned a lot, and I know everybody else did too. So thank you, Jack. I really appreciate you, man.
Thanks so much for having me, Phil. This was a blast.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, and thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Now get started tracking your data.